go. There we go. We're live now.
Hi.
Hey everybody, it is the Jesse Lewis Show, and today I am so happy. This is my fourth interview of the day, but I'm so happy to have Frankie Raye on, who is a musician, singer of some sort. We're going to find out more, but before we do that, we're going to ask the question of the week. Now, Frankie, I'm not sure if you're into superheroes or not, but this is what I'm starting off every interview this week with, is if you could choose to be any superhero out there, real, actually happening now in comic books or whatever it is, or one that you make up with your own special superpowers, who would you be?
I don't know. You know, it's funny. There's actually a superhero named Frankie Raye. So if you Google Frankie Raye, you'll see a superhero. It's like Nova. I don't really follow comic books or superheroes or anything like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm pretty boring. I would just love to have the power to be invisible. I don't know. Because I love to travel. And I feel like if you were invisible, you could just hop on any plane, like anytime you want, and go anywhere, not have to pay for anything. I don't know. I guess, like being invisible. I don't know.
That's a crazy power to want, especially for an entertainer, right? Yeah. That's kind of exactly the opposite of what most entertainers want.
I guess I just love traveling. So being invisible and being able to just go wherever I want, whenever I want would be pretty cool. I mean, you literally go into anywhere.
So before we continue on, everybody, it's probably in the description of the video. FrankieRaye.com is where you can talk to or get Frankie Raye stuff. Now, what are you considered? A songwriter, a musician, a singer? What would you be considered?
I would say I'm mostly singer-songwriter, you know, because my voice is my primary instrument. I do play guitar as well, but, you know, my voice is definitely my main instrument, and I write songs. So I guess singer-songwriter would definitely be how I would describe myself.
Okay. As I've talked to like 20 artists this week. It's crazy. Yeah. But so many of the artists that I'm talking to are older than me, let's say. You're younger than me. Yeah. I would assume, anyway. I'm 35. I would assume you're younger than me.
I'm 31.
Do you feel... Okay.
Yeah.
You should have said you're like 22. It's better off. Anyway, do you feel that first off, what type of music do you sing? And then we'll get into the real question.
I'm pretty poppy. I'd say pop is the easy answer. Not like contemporary pop that you hear on the radio, because that's more on the electronic side, I feel like. But acoustic pop, folky acoustic pop would be, I would say. Yeah, like, a newer take on maybe
cool?
1960s. Yeah. I mean, like, you know, old school Alanis Morissette or Lisa Loeb, you know, yeah.
That makes a lot more sense. I was like, what the hell? Okay. So on that note, that's almost, it's not a new genre, but it goes back almost to even Alanis Morissette. If you really look at her music, it almost has a folk feel to it, if that makes sense. And Jewel and that type of stuff. So do you find that the new stuff, when you're singing and when you're songwriting, do you feel that you're making as much of an emotional connection as what they used to make in their type of music? Does that make sense? Pop specifically has got really shake your booty type stuff more and more, if that makes sense. It's become really sexualized and stuff like that. So do you feel the music that you're making has that same emotional impact that the old stuff used to have?
Absolutely, I do. And that's what I really strive for. Lyrics are very important to me. And I think that's why it takes me a while to finish a song, because I'm so concerned with the lyrics, because I want them to actually say something. You know, I don't just want, like, you know, the songs that are on the radio now, there's just no substance. It's very plastic. So I definitely try to keep that emotional side, you know, like the artists used to have. I want to tell stories, you know.
That's awesome. Yeah, the reason I ask that is because it has become very plastic. The same with talk shows like this. You watch the big talk shows and they don't talk to the artist, say, oh, what are you promoting, blah, blah, blah. And there's no real conversation. So that's what this is all about. What kind of process do you have? Are you basing your music on life experiences, or are you stealing from others' life experiences? Are you finding stories in the media that you want to portray? How does it work for you?
So right now, I mostly use my own stories and my own experiences. But I kind of want to get away from that a little bit. I kind of want to think outside of the box, and because there's inspiration everywhere. You watch movies and news articles and things like that. So I definitely want to start looking outside of myself for inspiration. But currently, what I usually do is I start with the melody and I get, what I want it to sound like. And then I usually look inward when I'm looking for lyrics, when I'm trying to think of a topic to write about, which is fine. But I want to challenge myself to start looking outward for inspiration too.
So just I'm going to brainstorm with you for a second. And yeah, we're going to brainstorm live. So if you were going to write about something that's happened in the media, for instance, if you took an event that's happening right now, a socio-economic event like you take the Me Too movement, for instance, or you take the Black Lives Matter movement, or you take one of those movements and you turn it into a song. Like, I don't have a good contemporary, but do you know who Gordon Lightfoot is? And the record of Edmund Fitzgerald, where he took an event that happened and he created that song out of it, and it became a national sensation. And it wasn't really pop like you're talking about in today's sense of the word, but back then that was pop music. It really was. So how would you take something like that and transform it into not necessarily that style of music, but that the effect that they had on people? Because those songs were extremely emotional when they happened. How would you do something like that? How would you connect to people emotionally with that type of song?
So I have a song on my most recent album. It's actually the title track. It's called Brave. And I actually did take two events that were kind of happening. One of them was the Pulse shooting, which is very tragic. And then I took Brock Turner rape case. I don't know if you remember that, but that was very controversial. So
hopefully he dies a horrible, terrible death.
Terrible.
He gets ran over.
Yeah, I know. Totally unfair. I totally get it. But so what I did was I took those two moments, but I didn't want the whole song to be gloom and doom. Here are these awful things that are happening. So what I did was I discussed those issues in the verse. I was kind of very descriptive. Like the Pulse shooting, I talk about, the trigger was pulled and things like that. But I tried to find some connecting theme to kind of go through them, and I wanted it to be a little bit more positive. So the chorus is about us being brave despite all of the terrible things that are going on, and that we're in this together, and we just work together, but we still have a long way to go before we become one. So that's kind of how I approached that song. So I guess that would answer your question. It's not just the events, but what's some underlying theme? Like, I think right now, if we wrote about the pandemic that's happening, I kind of have a positive take. I think we're all learning a lot, and I think we're connecting in a way that we haven't connected before, especially here in the southern U.S. and Florida. There are Facebook groups of people talking to each other, and how are you guys handling this? How are you getting through the unemployment website? And it's like this whole, in our state in particular, it's like there's thousands of people, and we're all just communicating with each other to try to figure this out and to help and ask questions. So I think that's a really kind of positive take on it. So if I were to write a song about the pandemic, I think I could use that as an underlying theme about togetherness. And
in general, society hasn't had a real, well, there's a bunch of movements that have happened, but where 70% of society came together, I think the last real time that happened was probably the 70s, for having a movement of people and a shift in how society works, if that makes sense, where there was the human rights movement and stuff like that. So throughout the 90s and even today, we have the LGBTQ, all the letter movement, right? But I don't think it's the same as what it was where it was that general human rights movement, right? So it's good to see society doing that type of thing. So, holy cow, we went deep into a weird place.
I love it. This is great.
So as an artist, do you think that art still has a place as a singer? Do you still think that if you look at those the movements of the past, do you think artists have a place to start pushing these movements forward? Or you obviously do with Brave and stuff, but do you think it really is? Do you think it's going to be led like art by art like it used to be, where the hippies were led by all these great ballads that they had?
Yeah.
Do you think that that's where it's going to go?
I hope so. I mean, I've said that for a while. I really hope we get back to that because, like we were saying earlier, there isn't any substance and no one's really saying anything. I don't feel like anyone's really communicating. I think we're just kind of, what can I dance to so I don't have to think about anything? And I feel like that's kind of where music is, and it's been that way for a while. I mean, pretty much like I said, I'm only 31, but the time when I was old enough to develop my own taste in music and buy my own CDs and listen to the radio on my own. That's kind of where music was. I started growing up in that late 90s bubblegum pop movement. And it was just kind of the same ever since. I mean, we had a few good songwriters, but I really hope we get to a point where it's going to be led more through art and people actually thinking,
Yeah. The whole bubblegum pop movement, the let's face it, Britney Spears, Christina, that type of thing. That's what I grew up with too. And there was some positive role models on the countryside. You had the Dixie Chicks who actually stood up for something, whether it was right or wrong.
Yeah.
But really, the older bands that had been playing standing up for people for years quit playing. They weren't doing it anymore, and they weren't becoming popular like they used to be. And it's sad because my parents, I'm not your parents obviously let you listen to music and stuff, but my parents never guided me through that generation of that older music that had actual meaning to it, and basically I had to find it on my own. So you're 31. What are you doing for the next generation of musicians coming up to help guide them to be, and you're probably not doing anything, but completely random question, but how do you guide the newer generation of musicians that are coming up, the 5 to 30-year-old or 5 to 20-year-olds? How are you helping them to understand what you mean throughout your music? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just try to show people what I do. I mean, I have some musician friends that are, a lot younger that just started doing this, and even when I talk with them and I listen to their music, I always ask questions like, "Oh, what's your song about? What is this influenced by? What does this mean? What are you trying to say?" Just to kind of get them thinking about it if they're not already. And then at my live shows, I mean, I love meeting little kids at my shows because they're just so into the music, and I'll definitely give them a CD. I mean, I'm sure a lot of them don't even listen to CDs anymore because they're going to be becoming obsolete. But I do, when I'm playing my live shows and I do run into younger people, I definitely, try to show them my music. And, oh, do you want a CD? Oh, do you have Spotify? Listen to it, just so they can hear other stuff, something other than what's on the radio.
Yeah. That makes sense. We have a whole younger generation coming up that actually do care about the world, which is crazy because I never cared as much as the new generation does when I was their age. So it's good to have that. We are bordering on 13 and a half minutes. So these are only supposed to be 15 minutes long. I do have a couple more questions for you. Number one is, where can people find you? I'll let you say it this time so I don't make a mistake.
So the website is frankieraye.com, Frankie with an I-E, R-A-Y-E. And from that website, you can find all of my upcoming show schedules. You can hear my new music. You can see videos. I even have a little news section where I'm always updating every couple months about things that are coming up that I have, or trips or whatever. So the website's kind of a one-stop shop for all of that. Social media, YouTube, all of that.
Awesome. And of course, people can contact you for bookings and stuff. Or do you have a manager that you work with, or you're solo person?
I do. I work with Bruce Wozniak from Now Hear This Entertainment. So he definitely helps me handle the media end and doing things like this, and just guidance on how to do interviews and festivals. He's really good with kind of locking those things in and tying together those loose ends. And I do also do a lot of booking on my own. too. And I kind of do all the planning with when I'm going to release music and what kind of photos I'm going to get, or, you know.
That's awesome. So everybody who's watching, all two people that we have, did you know that? We have two people. Hi, two people. We'll get a bunch more views, but feel free to contact Frankie. As we end the interview, the last question I have for you, and it's the same question I ask everybody, is what have you done today, other than this interview, to make yourself happy?
Ooh, you know what? I started gardening recently. Yeah, I just went to Lowe's. I was so bored and I just bought all kinds of pots and seeds, and I still don't know what I'm doing, but I'm growing strawberries, and I've been Googling constantly of how to grow strawberries and how to grow certain types of flowers. So gardening has been making me really happy, just to kind of see, you know, the fruits of my labor, so to speak.
Well,
so
it's weird because almost every interview I've done goes back to gardening because it's one of the passions that I have.
Yeah, I've never even touched it before, but with all this free time, I've also been cooking a lot more, which has been making me happy because I enjoyed cooking, but I never had the time. So I've been cooking a lot, which is awesome.
I know this whole isolation thing has been really bad for a lot of people. And let's face it, my business is done for until January probably. Your business probably isn't picking up in the US for another probably month or two, right? So yeah. So we are stuck doing what we do. Anyway, everybody, I want you guys to give Frankie a big round of applause, wave at her, say bye. Frankie, say bye to everybody. And we're going to end the broadcast right now. Ending the broadcast.